to Nurse Talk with Martha
and Tessie.
where we are making history and we're reforming nursing and we're elevating our profession to the next level.
On today's episode, we would like to discuss a touchy subject of our favorite topic, conflict
Oh boy.
in nursing. Let's be specific about that.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
No, oh my goodness, conflict. Do we have to talk about conflict? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Necessary.
I think every
Every
person
person.
has had to deal with conflict.
Mhm.
And we don't always get it right, but there is a right way and a wrong way to deal with conflict.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know about you, but I've had to learn
Yes.
over time
Yes.
and be comfortable with
Yes.
conflict. Oh
Whew.
gosh.
That is I, coming from a place of working in a pharmacy with just me, the pharmacist, and another technician, and maybe a clerk.
Oh wow.
So me going into nursing was of a culture shock, and realizing that there's all different levels of conflict and
And
a lot
personalities.
more personalities, a lot more people,
Right.
a
Uh-huh.
lot more. So that was a wake up call for me. So yes,
Right. Yes.
yes,
Yes. Because it's like finding a balance of how to deal with the conflict and not
yes.
offend. That
Mm.
is major.
Or tuck tail and run.
Right. Uh-huh. You have to learn to play the people game.
Mm.
And I say that is we have so many different personalities, and but as you get to know your coworkers, you can kind of
Gauge.
gauge the
Mhm.
best you can, because I don't think
Mhm.
anybody has 100% an answer, because the situations are always different.
Yes.
But the main thing is learning how to deal with conflict.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I had my dad was kind of intimidating to me because he was a big
Yes.
guy, and I was afraid to even talk to him because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what he's going to
Say.
say or how he's going to, I don't want to be offensive or
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
out of order
Order
as a
as
kid.
yeah, as a kid.
As a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself being really shy and
Yes.
really, kind of standoffish when it comes to.
Yes. I can agree, Martha. I'm learning something new about her right now, and she might be learning something new about me as well. But yes, I can understand definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, coming from
Because
that.
that confrontation, dealing with
Yes.
the big C,
See, confrontation.
confrontation. Yeah.
Yes.
But one thing
Yes.
about, as time goes on, you'll start to feel a little bit more about confrontation. Hopefully, not everybody, but one thing that we do know, that if you don't handle
Mhm.
the conflict or
Yes.
confront it,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is things will continue to escalate.
Yep.
And there are some people
Mhm.
that want to deal with it right then and there,
Yes.
and there are others who may not feel comfortable with dealing with an uncomfortable situation. So
Yes.
it's just like a balloon. You have a flat balloon. Every conflict, the balloon is going to
Ooh.
expand, expand, expand,
Yes.
and then the next
Yes.
thing you know, there's going to be an explosion.
Explosion.
And the thing is, don't get to the point to where
Yes.
you are
Explode.
exploding.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you,
Yes.
Tessie, but I've found that over the years that if I deal with one situation at a time or deal with the situation when it happens,
Hmm.
um, I because I was one of those like the balloon
Hmm.
that I could take, 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 take,
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when the balloon
Mhm.
burst, it was over.
Over.
My temper
Mhm.
was, you know,
Out the roof.
right.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And that was really, if you get to that point where your temper is like you're exploding, that's gonna make you embarrassed.
Yes.
That made
Yes.
me embarrassed because I was
Yes.
like, you go back afterwards and said, "Oh man, I wish I just hadn't gone off like that."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it is one thing I do think that we as nurses that we could like learn to communicate a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that comes with
It
trust
comes with trust and time.
and time.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And going through those experiences, I agree.
Right.
You
Uh
know,
huh. Hmm.
we know it's not a unicorn and gumdrop
Right.
world,
Right.
period, in general. So we come to realize that we do have to go through conflict and deal with confrontation and things like that. I was one of those ones that stayed in my little bubble.
Hmm.
I was in my little bubble and I was like, I'm just going to be nice to everybody.
Hmm. Right.
But I had to realize over time that everybody is not going to be nice to me.
Right. Hmm.
And just because you have a smile on your face,
No boy.
some people's personalities are not receiving of that right off the bat. So
Right.
that was something I had to learn, that everybody's not happy all the time.
Right. Uh-huh.
But I
Hmm.
still had to learn that it was okay to be me.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what helped me push forward. But at the same time, when I did go through confrontations and conflict, when conflict did arise, I was one of those people who we need to deal with this right now, because sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. Sometimes
Right.
it's just a lack of communication between one party and the next. And that goes for the doctors, the nurse practitioners, the neonatologist, everyone, your co-workers, the managers, the clerks. It goes for everybody.
Right.
So that was something that I really learned, that for me it was easier to resolve it right then, or attempt to resolve it right then.
Right. Right.
Like, I was one that I didn't want to get to that place, because I know when I got to that place I'll cry.
Okay.
And that's embarrassing to me
Right.
too,
Uh-huh.
because I'm crying not because I'm afraid. I'm crying because I allowed myself to get so upset and so mad that I cried.
Right.
So that's still considered embarrassing to
Right.
some people too. For me, it was.
Right. Right.
So I get it.
You know, one thing I found is dealing with the situation in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's just a communication. It was, you know,
Yes.
like some miscommunication there,
Mm-hmm.
or something you perceived to
That's another
be
word. Mm-hmm. One way
offensive
or offensive.
or right. But and that's why I guess I guess after you get over the age of 50, you
Yes.
it's like okay,
Even
okay,
40s.
right,
In your 40s, you like,
uh-huh.
okay, whatever. And it just,
Right,
and you go about your way.
right, But I found that for me, what helps me is to go ahead and deal with the problem. Because I've had things happen and then I was like, or I may have perceived something to be, and I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, did I hear you just say
Yes.
whatever,
You
whatever?
have to check it. Yeah.
Yeah, repeat,
Can
repeat
you
back
repeat
to
that,
that
please?
person what it is that
Mm-hmm.
you may have, because you could have heard
Heard
it
it. Yeah.
totally different.
Yes.
Because the person may come back and say, no, no,
Yes.
that's not what I meant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That kills it.
Yes. Right then.
A lot of problems
Yeah.
right
That's
then.
true. Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, being a supervisor and Tessie being
And
a
manager.
manager, we both been put in situations where you may have other people come to you to solve a conflict. And I've noticed that if you can really hear both sides of the story, or
Yes.
get the two people to
You.
communicate,
Yes.
because everything is not run and tell the
The supervisor.
supervisor. When
Yes.
we're adults,
Adults.
and
Adults.
adults,
In an adult profession.
right,
For real.
exactly. Exactly.
Like, we have to still act like an adult. be
Right.
responsible like an adult, and learn how to manage certain situations as adults, just as you do outside in the world, outside of your workplace.
Right. And that is, oh boy, that is, just use your communication skills and
Yes.
try to work it out. Now, once you've tried to work it out and
And then,
the person has totally berated you
mm-hmm,
and made you feel like nothing, then it's time to call the supervisor. And then if the supervisor can't
mm-hmm,
take care of it, then the manager and take it up the chain
chain of command.
of command.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen. Oh gosh, I wish I didn't have to tell this story, but
I think both of us.
but without being specific,
Mm-hmm.
I have dealt with bullying
Mm.
at a
Whole,
whole
yeah,
different level.
yeah,
I've been
yes.
on a side where I saw someone so bullied
Mm.
to where she was about to quit nursing.
Yeah.
And I had to talk to her. I wasn't a supervisor, and I was just a coworker. And
Mm.
let me tell you something. If you have a personality where you can talk to people and
Mm-hmm.
people actually listen to you,
Mm-hmm.
you can intervene, but you have to be strategic. Or, and she was so bullied, and uh, thank God things worked out to where the person that was doing the bullying
Mm-hmm.
finally was dealt with and actually was fired.
Mm.
But the amount of pressure the nurse felt because she would talk to me,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of pressure she felt
Mm-hmm.
and how terrible she felt being bullied,
Mm-hmm.
it made me feel like,
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, this is not right.
Not right.
It's not right. And thankfully, the managers and supervisors at that time, they wanted to cut that at the core, deal with it right then.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, we know bullying is like a worm in an apple. You leave it there, it's just gonna the whole thing's gonna be, turned rotten. So, and also I've dealt with situations where I have been bullied.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's when my skills, I had to put my people skills, and I had to remember my chain of command.
Mm.
I had to carefully navigate what my
Right.
response to the bullying
What's gonna be?
was going
Gotcha.
to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be, you can really
Mm-hmm.
get real, it can be really sticky,
Sensitive. Yep.
because sometimes you may be bullied by the person that is above you. So that's something where still
Mm.
you have to say, this has to be dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to stop
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the one that
Have
has to
to stop
stop
it.
it. That's not easy for
Nope,
everybody.
it's not.
And that's why we have to team up and work as a team. And I've heard of situations. I've had friends who dealt with bullying, like even other medical professionals
Mm-hmm.
bullying them,
Mm-hmm.
and they've had to band together
Mm.
and go to the state, or go to the board
Wow.
and let the board know, go to HR.
Mm-hmm.
That's sticky. Nobody wants
Nobody
to
wants to
deal
do
with that.
it. Mm-mm.
But we can't be to the point to where we are allowing people to bully us out of positions that does. Do you remember how hard nursing school
Nursing
was?
school was hard.
So you're gonna tell me somebody's gonna come in and bully me to the point to where I don't want to work, or I'm going home crying. I've
Mm-hmm.
I've been in situations before
Mm-hmm.
where I felt so horrible
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like, well, nobody's gonna listen. Nobody's
Nobody's
gonna
gonna
listen
listen.
to me.
Yep.
People are gonna think that I'm crazy,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And that's when we have to make the decision. Okay, am I gonna stand up? Am I gonna go to HR?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let that person drive me out
Out
of my
position.
position. But if I don't feel like, I don't know about you, Tessie, but I've been in situations where I feel like, oh gosh, I don't know I got to think about this. What am I going to do? Is it worth it? Well, one beautiful thing that I did like, that I do like about traveling
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you
is
didn't
that
have to.
you got limited time
Mm-hmm.
to stay at that job,
Job. That's
and then
true.
okay, you start checking the checks on the calendar, the days off on the
The days
calendar.
off, like how much longer I have? Okay,
Right.
how much longer I have?
hmm
Yes,
But
yes.
the main thing is that you have to use that chain of command,
Yes.
and you have to stand firm,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that your job is your job, and
Mm-hmm.
that you won't let anybody bully you and just boot you out of your job that you worked hard to keep so far. Tessie,
That's
have you
true.
had some situations where you had to referee or?
I haven't had to referee, if I must say, um, but I do know that I witnessed someone who was very concerned about the position that they held, and they was upset about the fact that the leadership or a leadership team was playing a part in that to such a degree, as far as some of the bullying or what appeared to be bullying to that nurse.
Mhm.
Um, she felt to some degree that she was being pushed in the corner as well, and her voice was not being heard. So yes, I can say I do agree to that being a problem.
Mhm.
Um, Even in some situations, I mean, like sometimes I felt like in the assignments, sometimes,
Mhm.
like it can go back to something as basic as that,
Right.
that you're kind of being bullied
Mhm.
to take a particular assignment
Mhm.
due to the fact that it's busy,
Mm.
or also due to the fact that, oh, we know that youth can handle these assignments.
Yes.
I
Mm.
believe that's, now that I'm thinking a little bit more about that, that's a sign of bullying to me.
Mhm. It
Yes,
it
it
is.
is.
Mhm.
It is. And
Mhm.
I didn't look at it as that because I experienced that. I
Mhm.
didn't look at it as that at the time, because you're kind of look thought to look at it as a compliment.
Right. Uh-huh. Oh, yes.
But in actuality,
Mhm.
it's a use and abuse.
Yeah, it is. It is.
In actuality,
Mhm.
yes, if you really think about it. And that happened to me. So yes, I can talk about that as far as an experience, because, oh, you're so nice is what I got, and you're so good with talking to these type of people
Uh-huh.
or these
Mhm.
type of patients. So
Mhm.
we know that you can handle this kind of an assignment.
Right.
And I didn't think too hard about it because you took it as a compliment. I
Right.
received it as a compliment, not even knowing what was actually going
Going
on
on.
in the assignment.
Right. Uh-huh.
Had no clue. And
Right.
then as I'm getting report, I'm like, oh, okay, this is
Mhm.
why I'm in this assignment. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not to take away your learning experience in
Right.
nursing, like
Mhm.
we said in other episodes, like some things, yes, you do have to go through,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Because it's kind of a test
Right.
to see how you can handle certain things, or
Mhm.
how your response is, as we just got through talking about, to certain situations, be it if it's not even conflict or confrontation going on, but if it could go in that direction because it went down that road last week, overnight, with another nurse, another assignment. They put you sometimes in positions to challenge you,
Right.
which
Mhm.
we receive that. Nurses, we have to receive that. That's something that we have to go through because sometimes you know already and sometimes you don't know. You walk into it blindly and you don't know.
Right.
So you're on stage.
Mhm.
The minute you
Yes.
go into that department or unit that you choose to work in, you're on stage.
Yes.
You have
Absolutely.
many eyes on you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's just management and the patients and things like that. It's not, or your coworkers, but it's more than that.
Right.
So you always feel this pressure to have to put on cape
Right. Uh-huh.
and
Exactly.
perform in a certain manner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when you don't, or when you do, it kind of seems like it go either way
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
could be a form of bullying.
Right.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't do so well in that challenge, so we're gonna put you in this situation or this
Right.
assignment.
Right.
Oh, you did so good, so guess what? We're gonna keep you
Keep
in
doing
that
that.
assignment.
Right. Right.
I got stuck in assignments for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, a couple of times I said, phys- told people,
Mm-hmm.
can I get a break from that assignment?
Right. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I
Oh yeah.
need a break. Going back to self care.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew that I needed a break from an assignment. It didn't matter if you became primary or not. If you need a break, make sure that they know. Staff, the leadership team knows I need a break from the assignment. I'm thankful for being primary to that patient, but I need a break.
Right.
And it should be granted
Mm-hmm.
with no questions asked.
Right.
It
Right.
should be granted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a form of bullying as well too.
Right.
Because I kept getting put in the assignment, but she really likes you. The mom really wants you in the assignment. Working in the NICU, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for that parent to feel comfort, to feel safe, to feel secure, knowing that their baby is taken care of to the best, the greatest care
Mm-hmm.
and love. And that's understandable.
Right.
But they also have to be informed that that nurse
Mm-hmm.
may need a break, and it may not be just a staycation because she need to go home for a couple of days
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
just have a break. It may not be she need to go out of town because she's got on PTO and she needs to use her PTO. It may just be, can I go to a different assignment where the babies are not as critical,
Right.
where
Mm-hmm.
I can rest my brain cells for just a second and
Mm-hmm.
then come back up.
Right.
Everybody doesn't have that same
Right.
kind of drive like
Mm-hmm.
that. You
Right.
have some nurses that have that kind of drive, and when they come in, that's all they want. That's all they want is to run fast pace. Not every nurse is like that, and I think
Right.
we should be a lot more accommodating to
Right.
that as much as we can.
Right. I agree. I
You know,
agree. Because
it leads to other things, and
it.
if you need a body,
Mm-hmm.
you need a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
If you wear that nurse out,
Right. She gonna be taking some vacation days.
and she may not come back.
Right.
So you don't want to, like Martha said with that balloon. You talking about the response, but you don't want to take that person that far
Right.
like that
Uh-huh.
either, especially if they're crying out to you.
Right.
We
Uh-huh.
need to listen. That's why we want to hear your voice.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Being a traveler, one thing that would they when they see me walk through the door, they
Oh
automatically
Lord, let's do traveler. I forgot about that. Go ahead.
when
I forgot.
and, not just a traveler, but there a lot of times they'll just look at you and size you up. Even
Oh
like
yeah,
one thing that
true, true.
I've encountered
True.
is that I'm usually one of the tallest people there. I'm a big girl, so they're like, "Oh, okay." She can handle
Anything.
anything,
Mm-hmm.
anything you throw at her. But that's not
Fair.
fair.
It's not fair.
And being a traveler, you get the the end, you know,
That's
the short end of the stick
stick.
a lot.
Mhm.
You know, the staff they're burned out.
Yes.
They are constantly running, and I get it because I've
Definitely.
been staffed many times.
Yes.
The people are burned out, and what they do is just throw it on, you know,
The fresh body
right,
that came in that don't know what really
right,
is
what's
happening.
going on, right, and you
Yep.
find yourself drowning, and you don't have anybody
No.
there to, you know, you may
Yes.
have a few people there that's going to have your back, but it's highly likely that a lot of times the other staff may not have your back, and that's when you have to open your mouth, even if it even if there's
Causes.
even if it costs you from coming back to that place, you have to open your mouth and you have to let the person know, or the charge nurse know, look,
Yes.
I don't feel
Yes.
comfortable with this particular assignment.
Yes.
And oh my goodness,
Yes.
when you're filling out those applications and
Yes.
you know your work history and all of that, don't lie, don't lie.
Yes, Lord. You right about that.
Don't lie about your experience, because if you lie about your experience, say you can take care of all this, that, and the third just to
Get
get
ready.
through the door. You got to be ready, because
Yep.
they're gonna give you what you put on that your experience, your application, and you know, talking all this experience and stuff. You got to make sure that you can meet the expectations of
Yes.
what you put on that
That
application.
is 100% true.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have as much as travel experience as Martha, but that is 100% true.
Right. Mhm.
True.
It really
To the
is. But we, as nurses,
Mhm.
we have to learn to be kind to each other. I think
Yes.
probably because we're not very kind to ourselves, so we
Mhm.
drag that into work with us too a lot, or people at home aren't kind to us, or we just don't like people. But
You're
you're a
a
nurse.
nurse.
A nurse, and that, you know, it's a self check thing,
Yes.
because I check myself every
Yeah.
time I go through those doors.
Yes.
And if I'm feeling off, I'm telling you, I have to talk to
Self-care.
myself,
Mm-hmm.
talk to myself, get myself into the mindset of that
Mm-hmm.
I have got, you know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know, I don't know where I heard this, but somewhere I heard that you can check your problems at the door,
Yes.
and when you go in, and you can always pick it up
When you get leave.
when you leave.
Yep.
When you
Leave it
leave,
outside and
right,
put
exactly.
on your game face, like you said, ready to battle.
Uh-huh.
Leave all
Yes.
that other stuff outside
It's
and get to going. Pick
exactly
it back up when you get out the door. As long
right.
as it's nothing that's important, that's emergent, that you have to deal with,
Hmm.
it can wait.
And you know what does it cost
Mm-hmm.
to be kind?
Kind. Don't cost anything.
It doesn't cost.
It doesn't cost
It doesn't cost
anything.
anything. And I don't know if a lot of nurses are dealing with burnout, and just are so just miserable at times,
Mm-hmm.
to they forget to be kind,
Mm-hmm.
or forget to use our people skills to
Mm-hmm.
solve
Issues.
issues
Yep.
ourselves, because the managers and supervisors, they shouldn't have to hear every little thing.
Everything.
Or who likes the person that runs and tells everything and has not put forth any
Any
effort
effort.
to solve that
Mm-hmm.
problem with the person that is living and breathing and standing right
Right in
next
front
to
of you
you,
or
or
next
in
to you.
front of you?
Yes.
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 We
100%.
have to talk and have to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we can't work it out, then
Mm-hmm.
follow that
Chain
chain
of
of command. Because following that chain of command will always cover you. You got to have
paper
paper
trail.
trail.
Mm-hmm.
Paper trail is so important, because if, just like we say in nursing, if it's not
Not
documented,
documented,
it
it
is
is
not
not done.
done. So
Mm-hmm.
document,
Mm-hmm.
communicate, document,
Mm-hmm.
chain of
Chain
command.
of command and understand the chain of command and know how to utilize it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like really learn how to utilize it and utilize, like you said, your people skills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have people skills, but the manager and the supervisor can't fix every single thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We can be mediators in a lot of things, but like you just said, like there's some things that are really trivial
Right.
that
Mm-hmm.
can be actually dealt with between the two parties,
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
in a closed room door.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or just right at that moment, like you said, understanding the perspective and be willing to explain yourself.
Right.
Be
Exactly.
willing to make the extra effort and meet the person in the middle, especially the one who's trying to resolve or understand what took place.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
so
And
you can cut it at the root and be done. Move on. We're all here to help people, right? So if we're helping our patients, we need to help our coworkers, each other as well.
mm-hmm.
Set the tone, set the energy
Right.
for the environment.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because if you showing on stage, I go back to on stage. If you're showing this kind of love and kindness, just genuine love and kindness to your coworker, then guess what? That family, that patient, those other coworkers, that student, that new grad will see and
Mm-hmm.
will more than likely be receptive to it and maybe have a check within themselves. It's like, you know what, this is what they do in nursing.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I experienced. This is what I saw. And then they can utilize that as they continue to grow.
Right.
Or they can make adjustments within themselves. Set the
Right.
example. Lead
Right.
by example.
Example.
I think that's just it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Lead by example. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be in leadership to lead by example.
Right.
It's an everyday call for each individual person to lead by example.
Right. And I think about mothers with children that have multiple children, and you can relate to this. Or if you work around children, there you got one toy, and those kids are gonna fight over that one toy. So what you got to do? You got to come in, and you've got to break it up and solve the conflict. And really, it's something that is easy. People have to know their boundaries too.
Yes, true.
And as supervisors and managers,
Mm-hmm.
it, not we, you're in a place where you can't ignore it.
No.
You got to deal with it, and you got to deal with it. But it can be a lot easier, like I said, if we start at the bottom and just deal with each other, be kind to each other. Oh, goodness gracious! One thing that we as women can do, we can. Oh, that smart mouth. Oh my God, I got one at times myself, and I have to check myself because it's the way.
It's the way.
The way that you say something, the
Mm-hmm.
look.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Tessie, I had to tell you about last week, week before last, I was went to the post office.
Wow.
Just nice,
Wow.
beautiful, sunny day.
Tell
Went
me.
to the post office, stood in line, walked up to the counter, and the clerk, she never looked me in my eye. She looked off and said, may I help you? And looking off somewhere else. She never looked me in my eye, not one time. And every question I asked, she had a smart answer. And it was,
Oh my God.
breath. I had to take a deep breath, and I just said to myself, you control the narrative on how
Yes.
this is going to go.
Mm.
So every single time she said something smart to me, it was like my label wasn't perfect like it needed to be. Every time she said something smart, I said, oh, I'm so sorry. It was so hard for me to pull myself together on that. But I knew that if she was already over there, and I went over there with her, and it was going to be
good.
a problem.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So I took my box and my tag, got out of line, and went back and refilled out my envelope. Forgot something in the car, came back. There was a gentleman standing standing in the right by her window, and she did the exact same thing to him. And
How did this come out?
and boy, was that an explosion. He let her have it.
Wow.
And I mean, it was terrible. He was cursing everything. But the thing about it is, I had to maintain my because
It's
I
a
knew
choice.
it is
It's a
a
choice.
choice. It wasn't worth it to get my blood pressure up and get me out of character, because she was having, I think most of her days are like that. And I had to think about it at that time. I had to think about it. You know what? Thank God for the life that I have. I don't have to be miserable in a job where you're working with the public.
Yes.
And so
People.
she got what she was, delivering, to other people. She got it right back in her lap. So, but
Gonna fly on the wall.
right. But all of that, just like you said, it is a choice on how we choose to deal with conflict. The thing about it is knowing your policies and procedures on how to do it, because that will always back you up, and always check yourself with conflict, and do the best that you can to solve it at that point. And if you can't, then follow your chain of command. But I think studying and learning to communicate properly or the right ways to communicate can help us all when it comes like those interpersonal skills.
Yes.
That means everything, because that can solve a lot of conflict at the root.
For some reason, now that you bring that up, like, okay, not telling my age, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't really care. But back in nursing school, I'm trying to remember, like, we learned about interpersonal communication skills,
Right.
but I believe it needs to be, I'm coming up with all these different ideas. Like, that needs to be like with our basic, those first basic classes that we did, those nursing classes, like, there needs to be like probably some form of that type of class and instruction and assistance in each semester.
Right.
So that you can build
Right.
a little bit more, a little bit more information as you go through the conflict and the challenges while even in nursing school.
Right.
When you go into clinicals.
Right.
That nursing instructor is not by your side the entire time. And then we used to get put in the situations where, which we all have seen too, you're a student.
Right.
And that nurse says, do I have to have a student today?
Right. Oh my gosh. How many times have I heard that?
So like, I think that's necessary as well. Like, we have to, like, I know the nursing, patho, anatomy, psychology, and I think psychology needs to be a little bit deeper.
Right. With
like,
the interpersonal
with the
part.
interpersonal part.
Personality disorders.
Yes.
All of that good
yes,
stuff.
all of that good stuff, so that we can really like learn how to better communicate. Like, and I mean everybody. Like everybody, because for me, like, one thing was, one of my first experiences was, we even had a doctor that was kind of bullying-ish type personality, because he just kind of ran the place a little bit. He was in a leader, higher in position, not just a doctor. So learning how to not respond, or
Right.
how to respond, when to respond, because I've come to understand that doctors have a completely different personality.
Right.
Their mindset is, some doctors, not all, but some, disclaimer, have a different mindset, and a lot of their mindset is focused on fixing a
Right, the
problem
problem.
right then and there.
Right.
Like, but I think with our interpersonal um, patient skills, it would help kind of bridge that gap between the healthcare providers and the all of them, nursing, health, doctors, and all that, to kind of make it a better flow of communication, also, and set
Right.
up a greater example.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because I'll never forget that doctor. I asked a question. He was walking down the hallway and just went down the stairwell and never answered. So I'll tell you about my little embarrassing experience. I went running behind him. Brand new nurse. I needed an answer to a question that I had about a patient. I didn't know what to do. Nobody stopped me and said, well, you know what, he's this kind of doctor. This is kind of how you have to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't feel like I needed to change me
Right.
to be able to communicate with him, but you're supplying a service.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we need to know how to communicate
Right.
better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ran down the stairwell
Mm-hmm.
to get my answer.
Right.
And he gave me my answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had to let him know when I came into another encounter with him,
Mm-hmm.
that there was a level of respect.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I
Absolutely.
desired.
Right.
And it's a give and a take.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure that, like what I was saying is like the doctors are focused, right? They're not really trying to communicate. Some not really trying to communicate too much with you. But at the same time, I'm like, we all woke up this morning.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We all have breath.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can say hello.
Right. Exactly.
We can say good morning.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a whole lot of conversation. So as I continued to give him that, the respect came back. Right. So when I asked him questions, he would answer.
Right. Right.
So I dealt with the conflict in such a manner by not causing us to have a whole big scene in front of everybody.
Right.
But touch base with him on the outside, and it was just me and him.
Right.
Even though I felt embarrassed because I'm running behind him, but anyway, that doesn't matter. It was the fact that I got my question answered, and that he understood that I needed an answer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I needed an order
Mm-hmm.
to do something in particular to a patient he just saw.
Right.
And that I will refuse to allow you to brush me off again.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
So that goes for everybody.
And that's that level of respect. Respect, because a lot of times, like dealing with bully,
Yes.
I like the movie A Christmas Story, that's every Christmas. And I think about the bully in that particular situation. And it wasn't until the little guy stood up to the bully that he stopped doing what he was doing. He got more than he anticipated. He thought he was going to keep bullying and bullying. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do, is deal with it right then and let that person know what's going on. But do it in a professional manner, and make sure that you're away from others or away from families, all of that. And then because it's the way you do it, and the way you say things, and then those nonverbals, those eye rolling, and all of that a lot of us deal with as people
in general,
especially women. We can tend to have all the extra, and
Mm-hmm.
then we have to deal with the extras. Like I saw you rolling your eyes. Is there? I've had to say, I saw your facial expression, or I saw you rolling your eyes. Is there a problem, or is there something happened that I deal with it like I cannot let it go anymore. I used to let it go all the time. I can't let it go.
I used to let it go too. I used to let it go too.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
A couple experiences,
and then that just keeps things just keep blowing up, and that's not where where I
It's
want to
not a
be.
healthy
It's not
place.
healthy.
And it's not good
it's not.
self-care.
Right, exactly.
It's not good
Exactly.
self-care.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Now we can talk about this subject all all day long.
Yes.
And we want to hear from you as
Yes.
far as how you guys have dealt with some, conflicts, so maybe some things that we haven't mentioned.
Mhm.
We thank you so much for joining us with this discussion. Like I said, we could talk about this all
All
day.
day long.
But we appreciate you guys for joining us. Please
Yes.
hit the like button and subscribe and turn your notification bells on.
Mhm.
And we will be excited to see you in our next episode. Have a good one.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.